is CNN.
The markets have now entered the last hour of trading, and over the last 30 minutes or so, they dropped below 700. Again, that would be a new low for the session. The markets dropped early, and then they came back a bit, and then throughout the afternoon, they've been edging lower, lower, lower. Christine Romans on the floor of the stock exchange joins us. Chris?
Hi there, Aaron. You know, the selling pressure really intensifying here in the last hour of the trading session, and this is the biggest one-day point loss ever for the Dow if this sort of magnitude of losses hold, and this is the lowest level we've seen the Dow since the end of 1998. I want to talk about some of the sectors that aren't doing so hot here. First of all, the airlines, no surprise there, but airline-related stocks are getting hit here overall. You're looking at stocks that are down like Boeing, 14%. That's a Dow component. That's one of the reasons why the Dow is so weak. A lot of people worried that it could see a big drop in orders for planes as the airlines retrench. United Technologies down 24%. It has a division called Pratt & Whitney, and that makes engines for both commercial and military aircraft. AMR, that's a parent of American Airlines. The parent of United is UAL and Delta, all of them down sharply. Also watching retail stocks here because people are concerned about what it all means for people going to the mall if they're staying home watching their televisions, or if they're concerned about their safety, and if they're frankly grim. Walmart down 1.5 points here. Home Depot, Sears, Kmart, and Target all lower. Defense contractors, though, one of the rare bright spots here. Some of these names are active. Raytheon, RTN is the ticker symbol, up sharply here. Lockheed Martin also higher. Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, Newport News, all of them moving higher here. That is to be expected. People have been calling for that for days. You're also seeing some buying in the drug stocks and Philip Morris and the typical defensive names. The question everyone's asking me, Aaron, is this all sustainable, or is this a one-day reaction? But clearly we are in a tough downtrend, at least for today, Aaron.
Christine, help me with one or two things. In the last hour of trading, I'm guessing here that, for example, the mutual fund companies have some idea of whether money's going in or out. Is this the time they move into the market and will affect the last hour?
Absolutely. It's something we've been seeing for about the last 4 or 5 months. Is the last hour of the trading day is the most volatile because so many people are wondering what's happening in the market even before this. Remember, the S&P closed at a 3-year low the Friday before this tragedy on Wall Street. So the path of least resistance was already lower. People were sitting on their heels waiting to see how the market fared during the day before they got in or out. So this is the same kind of trend we have been seeing. People want to watch, want to see how the market's faring, and then they're going to make their decisions. A lot of folks have been calling for some sort of substantial rally off the low. When you didn't get that so-called bargain hunting coming in aggressively here, my hunch, and the traders say on the floor, is that people decided they better come in and sell it now.
And they'll see how it goes over the next few days, and then they'll either be buyers or sellers as we go on. But everybody's been saying, Christine, that this is not, well, I don't know that everyone's been saying, but a lot of people have been saying that for a while we're going to see a very volatile market.
And, you know, Aaron, in times of crisis, it has happened consistently with any kind of international crisis. You see a big reaction in the market, and then things smooth out over the next weeks. So people are saying, you know, listen, you got to get back to me in 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll tell you what I think.
Does anybody make money on a day like today?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people have been telling me, listen, nobody really makes money in a panicky market. This is not a panicky market, though. This is an orderly sell-off. There's a lot of calm, and there's a lot of rationale in there today. So it's not panicky, it's orderly. So, you know, somebody might be making money in there, but for the most part, people are just waiting and taking a pretty long-term view since things are so hairy here today.
Well, if they're making money, I'll bet anything it's no one I know. Thank you, Christine Romans at the Stock Exchange. The market, the Dow down 709, so it's up a bit from the lows. Nasdaq, though, also struggling, actually a bit closer to the lows if memory is working here. Senior White House correspondent John King joins us now, and more on what's going on behind him at the White House. John?
Good afternoon to you, Aaron. Well, the president, among other things, of course, monitoring developments in the financial markets. A short time ago, he told reporters, remember, there was a correction, he called it, in the markets even before this tragedy last week in the United States. Mr. Bush voicing confidence over the long run. The U.S. economy is quite strong and the markets will rebound. At this hour, the president out delivering a very different message. He's visiting an Islamic center here in the Washington area, increasingly concerned, the president is, we are told, about reports of backlash against Arab Americans around the United States. The president delivering a message this afternoon that even as the investigation continues and of course the focus on suspects of Arab descent, the president urging Americans not to take that out, not to be intolerant against Arab Americans. He's saying most of whom are just as law-abiding as any other Americans. Now, earlier today, though, the main business at hand for the president, military planning, a trip over to the Pentagon for the president. You see him here meeting in the conference room of the Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. This session to discuss the call-up of some 35,000 members of the National Guard and the reserves, most of them to be deployed here in the United States for things like monitoring air defenses. And the president also said some chaplains among the call-up in the reserve. Very tough language from the president today, though. Reporters asked him about Osama bin Laden, the investigation continuing, the administration labeling Mr. bin Laden the prime suspect. But the president today, when asked if he wanted Mr. bin Laden dead, very blunt talk from the Texan who was the president of the United States, saying there's an old saying, an old poster you used to see out in the Wild West, wanted, dead or alive.
Osama bin Laden is a prime suspect, and the people who house him, encourage him, provide food, comfort, or money are on notice. Last week, I spoke clearly about our nation's policy, and that is we're going to find those those evildoers, those barbaric people who attacked our country, and we're going to hold them accountable, and we're going to hold the people who house them accountable. The people who think they can provide them safe havens will be held accountable. The people who feed them will be held accountable. And the Taliban must take my statement seriously.
The Taliban, of course, the ruling militia in Afghanistan, where Mr. bin Laden has safe haven. Mr. Bush here shaking hands with members of the armed forces over at the Pentagon after his discussions with the Defense Secretary. The administration continuing a very broad diplomatic effort to build support for an international crackdown on terrorism, a crackdown likely to include, we are told, some U.S. military action. And as part of that effort, the White House announcing a short time ago the French President, Jacques Chirac, will be in Washington tomorrow for some meetings and a working dinner with President Bush here at the White House. Aaron?
In the briefing with Ari Fleischer, he was asked if the president's other initiatives are still on the table, and he rather pointedly said every one of them. Do you see any indication in the White House that any work is going on anything other than the agreeably broad parameters of the crisis?
Not right now, no work at all. The Congress, when it comes back, will deal with this crisis. Additional measures being requested by the Justice Department for counterterrorism efforts. In the short-term, immediate future, don't expect debate on anything else. But the White House message, more of a reassuring message to the American people that ultimately the president wants to return to the debate about the Patient's Bill of Rights, the debate about perhaps additional tax cuts to help the economy. But this is it right now in this town. And at that same briefing, Aaron, very, very tough language from the press secretary. Ari Fleischer asked about the current U.S. policy which forbids assassinations. He went out of his way to note there is an exception for self-defense. Asked if Mr. bin Laden would meet that exception, he refused to answer, but pointedly said again, there is an exception for self-defense. Aaron?
John, thanks. Senior White House correspondent John King. Down on the streets of New York today, the New York Mayor, Rudy Giuliani, and the state's two senators, Charles Schumer and Hillary Rodham Clinton, were again on the site thanking the rescue workers. You see Rudy, everyone calls him Rudy. You see Mayor Giuliani, our apologies, being hugged there and sharing a laugh with Senator Clinton. The mayor has been absolutely everywhere all the time. He was at a funeral memorial for, let me check that. He was at a ceremony for firefighters yesterday. There was really a promotions ceremony. They gave essentially battlefield promotions to some people. And he said, looking out at them after telling the story of his uncle who was a firefighter, "You are all my heroes." It was a very emotional moment for the firefighters in attendance and for the mayor, who hasn't always shown his softer side, but has certainly these last few days. And I have no idea when the mayor has slept. He has absolutely been available and out there, it seems, 24 hours a day. Gary Tuchman has been out there and available about that long as well, and Gary joins us now. Gary?
Aaron, the search continues behind me for the 4,972 people who are still missing, but I want to clear up some information about underground, under the World Trade Center. We've heard a lot about that's where survivors may be. I just talked with a sergeant with the Port Authority Police, and this sergeant is intimately involved with the search. Not only has he been here every day since Tuesday, but he's in a squadron of 9 people, and 6 of his comrades are missing. What he tells me is this: there are 6 levels under the World Trade Center for about 120 feet, each level about 20 feet. But you can't tell which level is which because they have become all squished together. He says they have been able to search some of the area and they have seen no survivors. But they know for certain they have not been able to search all of the area because they can't get to it. If they go from the top, they're afraid that many people on the scene could be crushed by the rubble. It's that precarious. They also tried to get through the bottom, through subway tunnels, but the subway tunnels are flooded, so they can't get through from under, they can't get through from over. It is very frustrating because this particular sergeant I talked to by the name of Antonio Scanella truly believes there could be survivors, but they cannot at this point get to it. So that's the situation we face right now. With us right now is another CNN correspondent, Jason Bellini. Jason has been traveling around Manhattan today as people go back to work, trying to get an idea if it's been a semi-normal day. What have you found, Jason? Have the subways, for example, been crowded?
They've been somewhat crowded, and while all that work is going on back there, people have had this very somber tone about them as they emerge from the subways, most of them for the first time since Tuesday, and they take a look at the wreckage up close. They're getting to see that for the first time as well, and it brings back, for many that I talk to, horrible memories of that day.
I mean, are they able to concentrate on their jobs and their families, or is everybody talking about this?
During lunchtime, I went over towards Wall Street, and many of the people over there went over to the fences and shared conversations about what was going on, and were pointing up at the area where the building was. They can't actually see anything but the smoke, but they're trying to remember where exactly the building was and assessing the disaster back there.
So when you're in other parts of Manhattan, I've noticed being in Midtown Manhattan, which is about 1.5 miles from here, things look semi-normal to me today. Is that your interpretation of it too?
Well, right after you get off the subway, you'll notice there aren't cars around in the areas that are approaching Wall Street in southern Manhattan. These are areas that have been blocked off since Tuesday. And there's construction equipment everywhere. There are these very loud generators. You see cables on the ground. So it doesn't feel normal there in the canyons of southern Manhattan. And people walk out, and with a very when I walked out of the subway with some people, they all immediately stopped. The police were telling them to move, but they stopped and they had to look at the wreckage, which is right there in front of them, just a few blocks away.
Jason Bellini, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We can tell you unequivocally that things are not normal in this part of Manhattan. We're 3 blocks away from the New York Stock Exchange, where people have been all day, but here, this area is still closed to the public. It's all emergency workers and members of the news media. Back to you.
Gary, as you were talking with Jason, I was talking to a friend today and who lives outside the city. It's not just New York that's not normal, or the city. And he was telling me that he tried this weekend to go out and play golf. He played 1 hole and just stopped. It just wasn't fun. It's hard these days to find much fun, at least around here. Thank you, Gary, for your efforts. We were mentioning New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani. We expect the mayor to brief reporters again shortly, and when he begins that, we'll go to him, let you listen in on that. If we can quickly go to San Francisco here for a moment, there is that's waiting for Rudy, a memorial service going on in San Francisco now for those who died on Tuesday. You'll recall perhaps that one of the flights was headed for San Francisco, so San Francisco was perhaps mourns a bit more than other parts of the country today.
Let me thank Rabbi Cantor, and of course Meridell and Timothy. Let me welcome all of you
And these are the kinds of ceremonies, vigils, services that have been going on across America, particularly since late last week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Certainly will go on again tonight. The Jewish New Year begins at sundown. The Jewish Americans going to synagogues, and those vigil services will continue. We'll have more Talkback Live coming up. CNN's coverage of the new war continues in just a moment.
With the kind of deals we have here in Gateway Country, we don't need gimmicks to get you in the store. Right now, we'll give you this Epson Stylus printer free when you buy any Gateway Essential PC. This is the Gateway Essential 950C featuring the Intel Celeron processor. It's only $7.99. That's why I say we don't need gimmicks.
Really?
Offer ends September 23rd, so stop by soon or call 1-800-GATEWAY.
Refinancing your mortgage may be easier than you think. Just log on to Ditech.com or call 1-800-71-FIX. Today's low fixed rate with 0 points is only 6.750%. With interest rates lower, now may be a great time to get cash or use the equity in your home to consolidate bills. It's smart money from Ditech.com. Apply online or call us at 1-800-71-FIX.
There is a venture capitalist out there with hundreds of millions of dollars for technology firms, startups, expansions, firms with new ideas, all in a friction-free business environment. Why would a venture capitalist work this way? Because they're convinced that technology is a can't-miss investment, and they'll do whatever it takes to help companies succeed. Who is this venture capitalist?
Pennsylvania.
Now's the best time to join America Online.
If I knew it was this easy, I would have started a long time ago.
Because now you can try AOL and get our best offer ever. 1,000 hours of AOL free for 45 days. Plug it in and you go. You don't need a credit card to join AOL. Call 1-877-265-0100 and be online in minutes.
America Online is the easy one.
Our free 24-hour customer service representatives are always available by phone.
Customer service is always there to help.
1,000 hours for 45 days free. Call 1-877-265-0100 to get everything AOL offers.
You've got mail.
I've got mail. I love when an instant message pops up.
AOL has parental controls,
and that's a good thing.
Chat, instant messages, email.
AOL has it all.
Now you can join AOL right over the phone. You don't even need a credit card.
Fire up the computer and off you go.
Get online in minutes. Our operators are standing by.
If we could do it, anyone can.
America Online, so easy to use, no wonder it's #1. Call 1-877-265-0100 for AOL's best offer ever.
When my arthritis started choosing the notes, I thought my jazz days were over. But my doctor said keep moving with Advil. It's strong enough to let me control the pain. That's me playing again.
Take Advil and take control.
Welcome back to this extended edition of Talkback Live. America Speaks Out. Former Democratic Congresswoman Pat Schroeder is still with us. And joining us now is Gary Bauer, president of American Values, a pro-family advocacy group. He served as a domestic policy advisor to President Ronald Reagan, and he ran for president, as you might recall, in the year 2000. Gary, thank you very much for being patient. Things are still in a bit of a flux around the network. Let me get you to weigh in on where you think this country should be headed in terms of retaliation, particularly in the immediate future if Pakistan is unsuccessful in convincing Afghanistan to turn over Osama bin Laden.
Bobby, I'm not sure I'm going to say anything that hasn't already been said. This is not a quick fix. I don't think we can turn on the television sets a couple days from now and see a few bombs blowing up in a desert somewhere and say to ourselves, well, we've taken care of that. This is a long process. There are a number of countries that for over a decade have been involved in promoting terrorism, aiding and abetting it. We just haven't been, quite frankly, very realistic about this sort of thing. And let me raise an example that has not been mentioned this afternoon. For over a decade, Beijing, China, has attempted to transfer technology to help radical Islamic nations build an Islamic bomb. China has signed agreement after agreement with us saying they'll stop doing this, and they've broken every agreement. Everybody in Washington knows it. And we all know what that radical Islamic bomb would be used for. It would be either dropped on Israel or, God forbid, on Israel or on us. And yet we've continued blithely to go along saying that trade was the most important thing with China. So I think we've just got to get a lot more serious as Americans about a whole lot of things, or face the prospect of even more terrible headlines ahead.
Why do you suppose we had gotten so complacent? Was it because it had not come home to roost on American soil?
I think that's part of it. You know, democratic governments often have periods of softness, particularly after a war. And we were, in our own way, in a long, long war, the Cold War, with the Soviet Union. And I think when the Berlin Wall came down and some of the other wonderful things happened in Eastern Europe, we saw people tasting freedom for the first time. We had that same impulse, as we often have as free men and women, to think that the world was now some nice American suburb, when in fact it's a lot more like the South Bronx at midnight. It's still a very nasty place. And there are a whole lot of folks that get up every morning with the only thought in mind, what can I do today to harm the United States? And I think we just need to remind ourselves of those kinds of facts a lot more often than we have been in recent years.
And Congresswoman Schroeder, it's not like we didn't have a little bit of warning, especially in the last 10 years.
Well, I honestly think one of the things we've talked about over and over, and we really shouldn't lose focus on, is we've got over 40 intelligence agencies, and they really need to be coordinated better, and we really need to have human intelligence, not just gadgets. It's got to be a combination of both. And I think we kind of believed we could do it maybe too much in a high-tech way. I also think, though, what we're hearing from the President is so important. We must say to every American that you're not to go enforce the law by yourself, and to take it out on Arab Americans is just unconscionable. We have got a very good team. We may or may not have been too lackadaisical before, but you've got everybody's focus now. And I think the trick is to work together for a unified response against enemies and terrorists, and not against American citizens. And I think this vigilante stuff really needs to be stopped right now. I'm so pleased you're giving us kind of like a town meeting where we can have this discussion, because I think all of us have to say to other citizens, of course you're angry, we're all angry, but the way to deal with this is to deal with this with our brain and not our glands. And that's the way we'll really have progress.
Let me go to the audience here. Ben, your thoughts?
Yes, I'd like to agree with Senator Schroeder about military intelligence. We do need more people in military intelligence. But being someone who's spent some time in the Air Force, we always had a saying that there's no such thing as military intelligence. I'm quite sure you understand that. And the reason why is because over the past 12 years, because of the demolish of communism, we have gotten lax. We have gotten complacent about thinking that everything is cool. We really need to get back and strengthen our military by beefing up our military and getting some serious intelligence, not just a catchphrase. Also, one thing I really would like to say to everybody, we can't just think that everything's going to happen like that with one strike. If we go over there and we do something to them, no matter what, something's going to happen here. And being someone who's a black American and raised in the 60s here in Atlanta, Georgia, we as Americans can't just judge people by the color of their skin or by the way they look.
You bring up a concern and a fear of a lot of Americans. Gary Bauer, I heard Gary Hart this morning, as a matter of fact, saying that he thought phase 2 here would most likely be some sort of biological or chemical terrorist event. And it might strike in not a New York or a Washington, but maybe a Denver or a Seattle or something like that. This is a fear we now have to live with. How do we prepare for that?
Well, God forbid that would ever happen. But look, I think we have to be realistic about this. There are people in the United States now. We know that. We don't know how many there are. But they're here. They've been here for a long time. And they mean to do whatever harm they can do to us. That's why I think the American people have got to prepare themselves for something that's going to be a lot more difficult, a lot more unpleasant than anything we've seen or experienced in a long, long time. And I believe the President, with his rhetoric, and some of the other leaders in the administration with their rhetoric, are trying to prepare the United States and the American people for some very dark days.
Guy's on the phone from Ontario. Guy, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
The policy of the United States regarding Middle East terrorism, especially in Israel, has been to show restraint and continue down the peace path in light of terrorist acts. And I was just wondering, do you not believe that this policy of the current United States government to react with military action is somewhat hypocritical, especially when Colin Powell continues to persist to promote peace in light of continued terrorist acts?
Well, I think the hypocrisy was us sitting here in the United States, some of our government leaders, and lecturing Israel on how they should respond when they see their women and children blown up in pizza restaurants and at discos, etc. I thought that was terribly inappropriate, and now, unfortunately, we've gotten a taste of what Israel has had to deal with day in and day out, week after week, month after month, at the hands of people that are dedicated to the destruction of the Israeli state. So I would hope that now we would stop putting pressure on Israel to time after time after time depend on diplomacy when their citizens are in the bullseye of terrorists.
I think it's also so important to call upon a lot of the Arabs who really would like peace to say it is time for you to now stand up, because people are losing hope in this whole peace process. We just haven't seen anybody coming forward in a long time really saying that. So I don't think we're being at all disingenuous. I think we'd all love to have peace. We'd all love to have that. But, hey, reality is here. It has hit us very hard. I think we also, and I hope our Canadian friend who called in will help us much more with these immigration issues. Our borders have been very porous, and we've been very lax about that too. And I have a feeling we've really got to get much more serious across the board, because while we wish for peace and we would like to work for peace, the reality is it's a very dangerous time right now because of some people who we just don't seem to be able to persuade to do anything but cause trouble.
We do have to take another break here. Gary Bauer and Pat Schroeder, thank you both very much for being with us today. As we do, a couple more emails here. Walter in Indiana says the USA and our friends have to do something about the attack. If we don't, we are just saying to all the terrorists, you can do it again. But if we do something about it, we might end all of it. Scott in the United Kingdom says, I can only hope that insightful and determined individuals with long-term objectives lead this war on terrorism. This incident may be the catalyst for positive political change throughout the world. We will take a break here. When we come back, why did the terrorists do it? We'll ask our guests that question. Stay with us.
The search for life and loved ones continues as President Bush promises victory against terrorism. For complete coverage, stay with CNN.
From America's #1 personal trainer, Tony Little, comes the country's most exciting way to lose weight, the revolutionary Gazelle Freestyle. 10 cardio, strength training, and stretching moves in one fun-filled, calorie-burning workout with almost zero impact.
I've lost 32 pounds in 7 months. Being over 300 pounds, it helped me lose over 200.
The Gazelle Freestyle has worked for these people and many more. Now you can try the Gazelle Freestyle before you buy. At home for 30 days for just $14.95 plus shipping and handling. Complete with onboard heart rate monitor and Tony Little's exclusive one-on-one personal trainer video.
Use the system for 30 days. If you don't fall in love with it, if you don't get results from it, if you don't like me, send it back.
This sensational Gazelle Freestyle $14.95 trial offer won't last long, so don't miss out. Call right now.
Call now to order a Gazelle Freestyle to try in your own home for just $14.95 plus shipping and handling.
This is CNN.
Welcome back. A lot of Americans wonder how anyone could commit such a heinous act and why it happened in America. Joining us now, John Leo, contributing editor and columnist at U.S. News and World Report, and Clarence Page, the Chicago Tribune's Washington-based editorial board member. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Bobby.
John, you wrote an interesting piece on townhall.com that basically talking about what you think is at the root of this terrorist cause, what you think this war is all about. So many people, think that we need to get to the root before we can eliminate the problem. What do you think is the root?
Well, Bobby, I think a lot of people assume that it has to do entirely with the Middle East, and I think that's a mistake. I don't think it has to do with the residue of colonialism or the Palestinian issue. Bin Laden almost never refers to the Palestinian issue. I think it has to do with what I call a global cultural war, that part of the Islamic world, by no means all of it, unable to come to terms with its own problems, to develop tolerance and a way to govern without coercion and violence, is striking out at the part of the world that carries a different value system, that they resent our democracy, our secularism, our tolerance. And this is something that cannot be negotiated away very quickly. It is a cultural war on a scale that dwarfs our little cultural war at home.
On the other hand, could we say that some cultural misunderstandings might be at the root of some of our foreign policy decisions? For example, I have an email here from California that says, why isn't there more debate about the fairness of America's foreign policy? I think that's what got us into this in the first place, she says.
Well, I think that's certainly true, that the U.S. is capable of making mistakes and lurching this way and that, but that's not what the radicals are talking about. They're not talking about failures of diplomacy. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking about destroying the great Satan, and even if it meant killing women and children. They're talking about a degree of violence in rhetoric and more in deed that we've never imagined before. And I think it has to do with an explosive reaction against the modern world. That this is a reaction by people who have not been able to enter the modern world and resent and want to deal with those who have.
Clarence, do you agree?
Up to a point, Bobby. I agree with John that this is a cultural war in the way that bin Laden looks at it. Look at the interviews that have been done with him. Look at his regularly issued fatwas. And he is hoping that the U.S. begins World War III and that it is fought along the lines of the Muslims versus the infidels. He is an extremist. He is a fundamentalist. John, I wouldn't quite go along with him to the point of saying that Israel doesn't matter. I'm sure John didn't mean that. Israel does matter, but that was just one of the previous straws. The big straw that broke the camel's back in bin Laden's view was when the U.S. Put military bases in Saudi Arabia, his home country. He felt that was an insult to Allah, to Islam. While he is quite a modern guy, and two of his brothers went to Harvard Law, I understand, his family has disowned him, but nevertheless, he feels that he is out to lead a holy war against this cultural encroachment. I put him in the same category with other fundamentalists, even Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell, whom I have met and know last week when they were inferring that this collapse of the World Trade Center was somehow God's punishment for legalized abortion, the ACLU, secular education. They were voicing the spirit of fundamentalists everywhere. And I don't want to put them in the same category with bin Laden, don't misunderstand me, but if you want to understand where bin Laden is coming from, you have to look to that religious fundamentalist minority of Muslims and Arabs, and it is a minority, and we shouldn't be prejudiced against the majority of Muslims and Arabs because of them.
I guess some people might ask, I'm sorry, John, were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say I agree with Clarence. I didn't mean to say that Israel doesn't matter. Israel certainly matters in that it's considered an injection of the demonic West into Arab territory. But I think we have to make a distinction between the intellectuals, as Clarence points out, who may or may not have gone to Harvard and are conversant with modern methods, and the vast majority of people in the extremist world who feel violated by modernity. I mean, bin Laden may not be. He may have rational responses to the U.S. setting foot in Saudi Arabia, but the vast majority of his clients that he speaks for are lashing out at the developed world and everything it stands for.
You know, this thing about being upset about military bases being in Saudi Arabia, I understand that to a point, but why at the same time wouldn't his beef be with the Saudi government who allowed them there?
Well, the Saudi government's kicked him out. They expelled him from Saudi Arabia. He does have a beef with the government of his home country. At the same time, of course, Saudi Arabia is the home of Mecca and other very important, the most important locations in the world of Islam. But there is a hope here with Arab governments and Islamic governments that don't trust bin Laden any more than we do. This is going to be a very interesting alignment, and I think there's no question we're in a new world, and there are opportunities here to form new alliances.
Let me take a phone call from Bill in Alaska. Go ahead, Bill.
Hi, I'm a Gulf War veteran and currently waiting for my call to join my Air National Guard unit here in Alaska. And my comment is this, in Korea, Vietnam, and in the Gulf War, we had somewhat war power resolutions which kept politics as part of the equation. When are the politicians going to put politics aside? How many Americans must die before we finally declare war? We know the names. The Taliban are going to execute 8 Christians just because they're Christians. We know who the enemies are. It's time to put politics down, declare war, and let the military go fight it.
But even if we do, thanks very much, Bill, appreciate it. Even if we do that, I think we still have a problem going about making it happen.
That's right. May I respond to that,
Yeah,
Bobby?
yes, sure.
I'm a Vietnam-era veteran. I was drafted quite reluctantly. I felt back then that, you know, if we had an enemy attacking us on our shores, it would be different. That's what my father and my uncle had. Well, we got it now. This is the war I've been waiting for, you might say. We have been attacked on our shore. But there ain't no easy way to go into Afghanistan, ladies and gentlemen. The terrain is very rough. It defeated the British. It defeated the Russians. We cannot go barreling in there and think with just military might we're going to win any more than we were able to win with military might in Vietnam. We're talking about, first of all, understanding who the so-called enemy is. The Taliban and their birth with the Mujahideen, who were encouraged by the CIA in the fight against the Soviet Union. We've got long roots there, but Americans know very little about that area and very little about this movement of which bin Laden is a part. And so I have confidence that Colin Powell, another Vietnam veteran, is going to approach this with all deliberate speed, improve the area of ignorance that we currently have about who we're fighting, and approach this both as far as human intelligence is concerned, maybe Delta Force units, maybe co-opting members of his movement, and if necessary, full-fledged all-out military action.
John?
Well, I agree with Clarence. Our options militarily are very limited. I think what your caller is expressing is the frustration and rage we all feel. But whatever kind of strike is made, there's very few targets that we can plausibly hit and do any damage to. We very likely will not be able to find bin Laden. And I think that the diplomacy, not the placating kind, but the kind that tries to make the moderate progressive Arab states come down harder and more firmly on our side is important. What Pat Schroeder said a moment ago, that there's an ambivalence in a lot of the developed Arab states. They know that we are what protects them from the radicals, but they sometimes fund and protect the radicals themselves. I think that ambivalence has to end. Some of the money flowing from the oil-rich states to the radicals is a kind of protection racket that we have to do something about. So that's the frontier of diplomacy. Which side are you on? Not a public declaration, but forcing the hand of the developed states that want to be where the U.S. is and realize that we are their allies in their future.
Let me go to the audience here quickly, and Jenna.
Yeah. I have a question and a comment. I think when we say that it is a war between two cultures and that's basically it, I think we fail to recognize a substantial part of the problem here, and I think that is the cyclical process that's going on here, dealing with a lot of the Islamic world, and that is where the United States government sees a threat, sees a problem, sees a dastardly, cowardly act like as happened Tuesday, imposes harsh sanctions or something on a country like Afghanistan or Iraq, in which thousands of civilians die, and that brings more anger and brings more, frustration, and another cowardly act happens, and thus the cycle keeps going on. Do you really think it's only a war of culture? Don't you think that maybe we should be looking at the frustration that comes from American policy?
Well, if it were just about American policies, I don't think we would see the terrorism in Uzbekistan or Chechnya that we see all around the Arab world. There are pockets of extreme terrorism, and it can't all have to do with Israel or U.S. policy. I think it has to do partly with that, but partly with the frustrations of a culture that hasn't been able to enter the modern world.
I have to take a quick break here. Andy's on the phone from California. Andy, I'll take your call when we come back.
So Budget.com has all kinds of cool cars from just $19.99.
And you can book one in less than a minute. Everyone should have access to Budget.com.
Hey, why don't we send computers to everyone in America?
Yes.
We don't need to get everyone computers.
Maybe not.
1999 things.
No, that's excellent.
Great idea.
Cool cars, cool price.
I'm a mother.
I'm a thinker.
I'm a friend.
And I am
we. I am we.
Introducing We, Women's Entertainment, a new television network for women that celebrates all the things we are, with our favorite movies and original series that share our vision, our vitality, and all that we value. If you want We, Women's Entertainment, call 1-866-29-IM-WE and say,
We is for me.
This is a complete broadband solution with a nitro-powered on switch. This is igniting your mission-critical applications on the fattest optical IP pipe on the planet. This is your business, screaming 1,000 times faster than yesterday. This is moving beyond connected. This is riding the light. This is the technology that makes it happen. Quest. Ride the light.
All right, Andy's on the phone in California. Andy, go ahead.
Hi, Bobby. What I want to say is I think what we have here is beginning of World War III. It requires the entire world, civilized world, bind together to fight this, not in a reactionary way, systematic, cooperative way that involves all institutions, civilization, diplomatic, economic, including military in selected ways. And I think that, in essence, this is haves versus have-nots. Now, have-nots, some are self-limiting by Islam, radical Islam mentality, but because poverty is so prevalent in these areas, it foments these kind of radical thinking and beliefs that, get to America because they have and we don't. So it's going to involve...
Let me jump in here, Andy, a little bit, because you're really kind of breaking up. I'm not sure if you're in a bad cell there or whatever. I think, gentlemen, you got the gist of what he said? Haves versus have-nots, basically.
Yes, I would say that as far as the have versus have-nots go, we're talking about countries that are not democratic, countries that don't have truly free markets, free flow of ideas. The worst offender is Afghanistan under the Taliban, who won't even let girls or women be educated, even at home. We're talking about a world that's trying to hold on to the past while the future is encroaching and many people resent it. The young lady earlier who was talking about our American foreign policy, our view of the world being partly at fault here, I'm not going to exonerate us or our country. I think after wartime, it's certainly easy to try to turn your back on the rest of the world or to practice unilateralism when you're the big kid on the block. But it's important to remember that people resent whoever the biggest kid on the block is. And that resentment's going to be there. One further thing, yeah, a lot of people do call us the great Satan. As Tony Lake, former National Security Advisor, pointed out, Satan was not a warrior. Satan was a tempter. Satan offered the temptation out there. And in the eyes of many in the Islamic world, Western culture, Hollywood is our second biggest export, ladies and gentlemen. We dominate the world as far as culture is concerned, and it's spreading. There are people who resent that. Some extremists will take the law into their own hands in the form of a perverted holy war, one that is not truly backed by the Quran, as most Islamic scholars will assure you. But that danger is out there for us.
A comment, a question from Loretta? I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to add that I agree with Clarence that the one point we were talking about before about whether America has helped provoke this by hurting Islamic interests. Well, yes, sure, we defend Israel, but remember, we went in to defend Somalia, and a Muslim nation. We spent a lot of money and time and energy protecting the Muslims in Yugoslavia. And most recently, the United States went well out of its way to put great pressure on Israel to come to terms with the Palestinians. So whatever mistakes we have made, they have not been one-sided by any means.
Loretta, go ahead.
I agree.
Yes, I was responding earlier to David's comment about karma and, what the United States do to deserve this. And I think my comment is that actually, if we look at the history of the United States, we've actually always been there to help our neighboring countries in the global wars that we've had in the past, and I find it extremely difficult. I've heard a lot of people say, well, maybe America deserves this because of our policies and some of the things we've done. No, America does not deserve this. America has been, certainly we've made our mistakes, I think, but to stop to think we've been a great country that has been there to help many others, oftentimes even to the demise of our own citizens. And so when we look at that, we have to be thankful that America has been there for others, and we hope others would be here for us.
Let me take another phone call from Julia in Massachusetts. Julia, you have an interesting perspective.
Hi.
Hi.
I was born in the former Soviet Union. I am now a citizen of the United States. I was 5 years old when Soviet troops entered Afghanistan, so for me, when I became conscious of what was going on, it was already a fact of life. And I've seen people who came back from there, they came back changed, and most didn't come back. And my point is that while the American public is calling for quick revenge, retaliation, ground troops in Afghanistan, people just don't understand what it's like in there. People don't understand that American Army has never had a chance to train on the terrain like the terrain in Afghanistan. I'm very worried about seeing a lot more American troops come home in zinc coffins, which is how Russian boys came home, because they were just, killed, unrecognizable. They would have to be put in zinc coffins. And
Julia, thanks very much for your comment. She does make a point. History is not really on our side when it comes to going into a country like Afghanistan.
We need to learn the lessons of history, of course. The Russians were in there trying to support an illegitimate government, and they ran into some severe problems. The kind of things we're going to run into if we think, again, that military might alone is going to win. We must begin to, first of all, close that information gap that we have about Osama bin Laden, about his movement. Obviously, we've had our wake-up. I don't say wake-up call. We've had our wake-up. We should have had our wake-up call in the year 2000 when the Millennium Bomber was captured in Seattle, one of bin Laden's men, about to blow up Los Angeles airport. Instead of waking up, we hit the snooze alarm. We thought, or snooze button. We thought we were going to be able to beat this terrorism thing more easily than we have been able to. And now, sadly, we have this terrible tragedy. America is awakened, but we must not rush blindly in our rage into a bigger problem, another quagmire. We must do this the right way in preparation for this new century.
The White House is confirming for us, we're just learning now that British Prime Minister Tony Blair will be at the White House on Thursday, which is a little bit earlier, I understand, from a trip that he had been planning, obviously under the circumstances. Go ahead up here to the back row.
What happened last Tuesday, was against all of humanity. There were all races, religions, ethnicities. Terrorism has been around for thousands of years, and we've got to find a peaceful way to come to all love each other. Otherwise, it's the end of humanity. Planes were flying overhead that afternoon in our home, and I thought, this is what war must be like. What a terrible, terrible tragedy it would be if this is what it ended up to be, because it would affect every one of us.
We should explain you live in Connecticut,
yes.
So you're close by.
We must learn to live with all of us and love all of us.
Sergio, you had a concern. You're from Mexico.
Yes, my concern is Pakistan is going to lead the United States Army to attack Afghanistan, but I know that Pakistan and India, they have some frictions. Therefore, also they have nuclear weapons. I'm a little bit concerned if nuclear weapons are going to get into the equation of this big problem that we have now.
May I speak to that, Bobby?
Certainly, John.
Yes. I think we have to take into account that Pakistan is in a very vulnerable situation. It's right between Iraq and Afghanistan. It can be invaded from either side. They are carrying our message to the Taliban, whether we can rely on them to be wholehearted allies or force them to do things that could topple that regime and put nuclear weapons in the hands of people who do not wish us well. So that has to be very carefully handled, the whole issue of Pakistan.
I have an email here from Joe in Fort Worth, Texas, who says, if the Taliban is so concerned about its impoverished people, why don't they ask bin Laden to contribute some of his many millions to improve life for these poor? The answer probably is that he doesn't care and would rather spend his money on hate and terrorism. Eric, go ahead, your comment.
Yes, there was a mention of bridging the gap of ignorance about bin Laden and his movements. What about the gap of the rest of the terrorists that could easily take his place if we did bring bin Laden in?
I'm not sure there are terrorists who could easily take his place. Bin Laden is a special figure. He's not a strategist. He's not a militarist. He is an inspiration. And ironically, we have helped to improve his charismatic appeal among this extreme element by giving him so much attention. We have to give him attention, of course. But at the same time, Colin Powell has said we're not going to just go after bin Laden, we're going to go after the entire terrorist network. That's a big proposition, but it is an essential proposition because you're right, one person isn't the whole story.
We have to end it there. John Leo and Clarence Page, thank you very much for educating us. Appreciate you being here. And we will be back again tomorrow at 2 Eastern Time for another 2-hour special edition of Talkback Live. Right now, all eyes are on Wall Street, where the markets will be closing in just a few moments. Lou Dobbs takes us up to the closing bell right after this break. Stay with us.
Refinancing your mortgage may be easier than you think. Just log on to Ditech.com or call 1-800-71-FIX. Today's low fixed rate with 0 points is only 6.750%. With interest rates lower, now may be a great time to get cash or use the equity in your home to consolidate bills. It's smart money from Ditech.com. Apply online or call us at 1-800-71-FIX.
For the latest developments as events unfold in America's new war, stay with CNN.
Are you one of the millions of American males who would like increased sexual energy? If you've been considering Viagra as a solution, consider something different. All-natural Enerx. Clinical studies show various ingredients of Enerx enhance sexual energy, increasing desire, performance, and satisfaction. Enerx is all natural with no side effects. With Enerx, you'll feel the increased energy within minutes and with no chemicals. We're so sure you and your mate will be completely satisfied. We'll offer you a 30-day, no questions asked, full refund. Enerx stimulates sexual energy by expanding the blood vessels, causing increased blood flow to specific areas of the body. Unleash the power of Enerx now.
Call 1-800-367-3614 toll-free, and it will be delivered discreetly to your home. Get results using the safe, all-natural alternative, Enerx.
How would you like to lose that big belly and save big money? Then you need the Abdur system, designed to aerobically burn fat as it flattens your abs in just minutes a day, and it's yours for a fraction of the cost. Look, ab machines strengthen muscles but won't reduce your waist, and some exercises can make your muscles bigger. Only the Abdur's rotating torso trimmer targets your upper abs, lower abs, and obliques, all in one fat-burning circular motion. You'll flatten your stomach in weeks, not months. We guarantee it.
Before I started using the Abdur system, I was really unhappy the way I looked. Ever since I started using the Abdur system, I started seeing immediate results, and I feel so much happier and more confident in everything I do.
These machines cost up to $8,000. The Abdur does the work of all these machines. Millions have sold for 5 payments of only $29.95. But if you call now, we'll lower the price to 5 payments of only $19.95. That's a $50 savings. Plus, you get the Abdobix nutritional guide and motivational video free. We guarantee you'll lose at least 2 inches in just 10 days or your money back. So call now.
This is CNN.
Among the highest number of graduates in computer science and engineering in the country, over 4,700 graduates in computer and information sciences, over 5,000 graduates in engineering, including chemical and bioengineering, and they all graduated from the same place. Just who produces this kind of talent for the workforce each and every year?
Pennsylvania.
In the next 15 minutes, a new look will go from outrage to all the rage. A simple song can define a generation. In the next 15 minutes, start cooking. Get hot-wired. Shift into 5th gear. Now, lifestyle news that fits your ever-changing life. So you know an enduring trend from a passing fad. In the next 15 minutes, CNN Headline News. Real news, real fast.
Well, the markets today tumbling right from the opening bell. The Dow Jones Industrials plunging more than 650 points, about 7%. The Dow officially falling into bear market territory today. That is defined by a 20% decline or more drop from a market's all-time closing high. The Dow hit its record high of 11,722 just over a year and a half ago. It is now down 24% from that all-time high. The Nasdaq down about 6.5% on the day's session, closing at levels not seen since October of 1998. We're going to turn to our correspondents following the day's sell-off on Wall Street, and we're going to begin with Rhonda Schaffler at the New York Stock Exchange. Rhonda?
Lou, this will be a day when records are set, the biggest one-day point loss for the Dow Industrials, and the busiest trading day on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. But the Dow, at this point, does not look like it will close at its worst levels of the session. For a brief time, the Dow dropped more than 700 points this afternoon, as that chart illustrates. It did bounce back from that. The other thing that's important to mention here, Lou, is that throughout the day, the selling, while heavy, has been orderly. We have just about a minute and a half before that closing bell rings. Last 90 seconds to get in orders. There is no panic on this trading floor. I have been on this floor. When there is panic, there is none today. This was a day where the markets opened and they functioned, and while the sell-off was severe, the markets still were made. Lou, one thing I want to point out to you as we head up to the closing bell, you were here for the very emotional bell ringing this morning. To ring the closing bell this afternoon is an NYSE security officer who was responsible for evacuating 130 people from the World Trade Center. Lou.
Right, an exceptional day, and as you say, wrapping up the day's session, Rhonda, it began the same way, orderly trading throughout. Let's go now to Greg Clarkin over at the NASDAQ market site, where trading has been both brisk and down. Greg?
And Lou, I'll tell you, today's performance by the NASDAQ impressing a lot of folks. They're taking comfort in the fact that the NASDAQ is ending the session really right about where it began the session. It opened with about 100, 110-point drop, and that's pretty much where it finds itself now. Volume, percentage loss, point loss, not even close to being in the top 10 today. So those internal benchmarks really holding up nicely in the NASDAQ. Coming out of this session fairly well. We never saw the wave after wave of selling. A lot of folks anticipated after that early wave of selling. Lou?
Yeah, Greg, as you say, the market not approaching even on percentage or absolute terms. We're going back to the New York Stock Exchange. You're listening to the closing bell on this historic session after these markets were open today after 4 days